So, how many decisions have you made today? I mean, really think about it. 10? 100? Well, some research suggests it's actually in the thousands. From what you chose to wear this morning to how you worded that last email, our days are just this constant stream of choices. And, we like to think we're in the driver's seat for all of them, rationally weighing the pros and cons. But what if I told you that most of those decisions are being quietly shaped by hidden forces we don't even notice? Today, we're going to pull back that curtain.
All right, our story actually starts with a puzzle, a real head-scratcher from deep inside the South Korean government. A few years back, they launched this big program to cut down on bureaucratic red tape. All those frustrating rules that slow everything down. They set up a system to measure and grade every single local government on how well they were getting rid of these burdens. The idea was pretty simple. Give them feedback, and they'll get better. But what they found instead was a paradox that left everyone completely baffled.
And this is where things get weird. The local governments that got the worst grades, we're talking the C's and D's, they showed this massive improvement. They just slashed that red tape. But the top performers, the ones who got a shiny S or an A, their performance actually got worse, or at best, just stayed the same. The whole program had the complete opposite effect of what you'd expect.
So what's going on here? This is the central mystery we have to solve. Why on earth would failure be a motivator while success, well, it just leads to complacency? The answer, it turns out, reveals something really fundamental about how all of our brains are wired.
Okay, to get to the bottom of this government mystery, we have to throw out a myth that we all kind of believe. This idea that we are perfectly rational decision makers. It's a nice thought, but it's just not how our minds actually work in the real world.
On the left, you see the textbook ideal, right? A supercomputer brain, logically calculating every single possibility to find the absolute best path. But on the right, well, that's us. That's reality. Our brains get totally overwhelmed by that much information. So instead, we simplify. We take shortcuts.
And this has a name. It's called bounded rationality. It just means that, hey, we have limits, we can't process everything, so we don't even try to be perfect. Instead, we do something called satisficing. It's a mix of satisfy and suffice. We just find an option that's good enough, and we move on with our lives.
So there it is. That's our first major clue in solving this mystery. To get through a complex world, our brains rely on these mental shortcuts. And sure, they're efficient, but they can also lead us dangerously off course.
Now these shortcuts, well, they're called cognitive biases. They're these systematic patterns that make us stray from purely rational judgment. And the tricky part is, they happen automatically, usually without us even realizing it, which makes us, well, predictably irrational. Let's dig into some of the most powerful ones you probably bump into every single day.
Okay, first up, consider the halo effect. This is when one single positive thing, like someone's got a warm smile or a really sharp suit, creates this halo, and suddenly we assume everything else about them is positive too. And we do this often without a single shred of actual evidence.
And then, of course, there's stereotyping. You can think of this as your brain's mental filing system, trying to quickly sort people into categories to make sense of things. It's a shortcut for navigating a really complicated world, but it's a shortcut that can be deeply, deeply inaccurate and unfair.
Oh, this next one is huge. It's the anchoring bias, this tendency we have to get locked onto the very first piece of information we hear. Just think about a salary negotiation. Whatever number gets mentioned first, that's the anchor. And every single offer after that is judged against it. That first number has an incredible amount of power.
You know that feeling you get after something has already happened? That little voice that says, "Oh, I knew it all along." Well, the author Malcolm Gladwell just captured our next bias perfectly with this quote. We call this hindsight bias. It's so easy to look back now at the collapse of a company like Blockbuster and say, of course streaming was the future. It was so obvious. But in the moment, trust me, the path forward was anything but clear. Hindsight bias messes with our memory, making us believe we're way better predictors than we actually are.
So, let's recap. We know our brains aren't these perfect, rational computers, and we know they use all these shortcuts, these biases, to get by. Now, armed with that knowledge, we have all the pieces we need to finally go back and crack this case.
So what was the hidden force really at play in that government program? Why did the low performers suddenly kick it into gear, while the high performers just slid backward?
Take a look at this chart again. The answer wasn't really in the grades themselves, but in how the organizations reacted to them. And the key is this: our brains are not wired to treat good news and bad news equally. The difference is just dramatic.
The solution is something called the negativity bias. And you've felt this a million times. Think about it. One single insult can totally ruin your day, right? But a dozen compliments might be forgotten in an hour. Our brains are just hardwired to give much, much more weight to negative things. Bad news is simply a more powerful catalyst for action. So when those local governments got a C or a D, that bad news triggered what's called a problem-driven search. It was a massive wake-up call, forcing them to find solutions. But getting an A? Well, that just triggered complacency. They felt no pressure to change, no reason to improve. And just like that, our mystery's solved.
But look, this isn't just some interesting story about bureaucracy in South Korea, right? These exact same forces are shaping your career and your life, probably in ways you don't even see.
I mean, think about a job interview. That first impression, formed in a tenth of a second, acts as an anchor that colors everything you say after. Or what about performance reviews? So often, managers give more weight to what you did last week than that huge project you nailed 6 months ago just because it's more recent in their memory. And punctuality? Oh, this one's a classic. We see our own lateness as, traffic was a nightmare. But when a coworker is late, we see it as a flaw in their character.
Knowing all this can feel a little discouraging, can't it? I mean, if our brains are hardwired to make these kinds of mistakes, what can we possibly do about it? Well, the good news is, just being aware of it is the first giant step. And there are some real, concrete strategies we can use to make better choices.
Okay, first you gotta just admit it. Acknowledge that you have these biases, just like every other human being. Second, learn to play devil's advocate with yourself. Actively hunt for evidence that proves your gut feeling is wrong. And finally, reward the truth. Whether it's in your team or your family, create a space where it's safe for people to challenge ideas without being afraid. So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you know about these hidden forces, the anchors, the halos, and our powerful bias toward bad news, what decision, big or small, are you going to re-examine today? Because when you really understand how your brain works, the answer might just surprise you.